The truth is not in you. All right, I'm trolling. Go ahead, DC.
That was crazy.
Okay. So I want to go back to
Mm-hmm.
keeping it Bible. Um, I rate to the guy named Trinity is false. I
Mm-hmm.
raised Acts 21, and I want to raise it to you.
Okay.
Um, so Acts chapter 21, verse. I'll start with verse 20, just to establish the context for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And when they heard it, okay, verse 19. When he had greeted them, all right, verse 18. On the following day, Paul went in with us to James, and all the elders were present. When he had greeted them, he told in detail those things which God had done among the Gentiles through ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord. And they said to him, "You see, brother, how many myriads of Jews there are who have believed, and they are all zealous for the law. But they have been informed about you that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying they ought not to circumcise their children nor to walk according to the customs. What then? The assembly must certainly meet, for they will hear that you have come. Therefore, do what we tell you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be purified with them, and pay their expenses, so that they may shave their heads, and that all may know that those things of which they were informed concerning you are nothing, but that you yourself also walk orderly and keep the law. But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should observe no such thing,
Mm-hmm.
except that they should keep themselves from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality. So there's a false rumor going around saying that, hey, Paul's teaching people, Paul's teaching Jews specifically. Paul's teaching Jews not to keep the law, not to circumcise their children. So the elders tell Paul, okay, what you got to do, we know this rumor is false. What you got to do is join these men who have the Nazarite vow from number 6. They're about to
Mm-hmm.
shave their heads, pay for their sacrifices, and you'll be straight. But concerning the Gentiles, we have written they should not observe such a thing. What you Jews should keep the law, but Gentiles, no, that's not. And so this goes back to Acts 15. They had a whole council about it, um, where they decided it's not necessary for Gentiles to keep the law. So now, if you're saying that Gentiles means scattered Israelites,
Mm-hmm.
um, that that is impossible, because actually Deuteronomy 30 tells scattered Israelites that when they come back to the law, that's when God will restore them. When
Okay.
they recommit.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. My bad, man. I understand now. I understand your point. Let me help you out.
yep, I'm done.
Right. So I'm gonna go to First Corinthians 7:19, just to let you know what's going on with Paul is battling, right? Are you familiar with the scripture when it says, "To the Jew I became a Jew to win them over"?
Yes.
Okay, this is basically what's going on right now. This is what you're reading is like the start of establishing all these churches and what Paul had to go through, right? Meaning that these Gentiles, these people, they never was following the law for a long time, and Paul's letting them know just start with this, right? But however, these Jews were trying to put the burden on them, like getting circumcised. I believe the scripture you read talked about circumcision, right?
You sure did.
Right. So verse 19, it says that First Corinthians 7:18, right? It says, "Is any man called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised." So what's going on right now? He's battling the exact same thing. Men are trying to make these Gentiles, these non-Israelites, scattered Israelites, get circumcised. However, the law about circumcision was what? Being circumcised on the 8th day. They couldn't go back and fulfill that law. Why? Because it has already passed. It's not the 8th day no more. So he's saying, you come in here uncircumcised, don't get circumcised, right? Verse 19, circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of God. So these people was instructed to keep the commandments of God. The scripture you read with Paul, he was letting them know, just start with these things. And what's so special about this scripture right here is because Paul had a coming to self moment too, because he made Timothy get circumcised. So Paul made Timothy get circumcised, but now in 1 Corinthians 7:19, he's saying, if you're uncircumcised, don't get circumcised. Why did Paul make Timothy get circumcised? Because of what the Jews thought. To the Jew, I became a Jew. It was his way of trying to move without, people hating on what they was doing, which is why you read in that verse, he said, go and do that law right there, and that's going to satisfy it. Why? Because the Jews kept talking shit. There was a whole bunch of shit talkers. That's the entire point of it. When we say Jew, we talking about so you want to think about the house of Judah being the last house that was standing.
I know.
Right? But inside the house of Judah, it had the hierarchy. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like when it said that Christ was going to be rejected by like the scribes and the priests and the Pharisees and all those rulers, right? Those are the Jews. They had their customs, their laws, and they were sitting they sat in Moses' seat. Right? So that's what that means right there.
Okay, I hear you. I don't think it fully addresses what's
What
going
point?
on here.
About what point?
Okay, the most specific one
Mhm.
is end of Acts 21 verse 24. This is
Mhm.
like a very specific point. Okay, those things of which they were informed concerning you are nothing, but you yourself also walk orderly and keep the law. Verse 25. But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should observe no such thing. The thing being,
Okay, right there.
keeping the law.
When it says they should observe no such thing, can these Gentiles molest children?
So this argument, neither of us, okay, when we look at except that they should keep themselves from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality. Nobody's arguing that this is the full list of everything that they must do.
Okay, then right there.
We can hold on. We can agree that these are practices that are going to help these converts coming out of paganism fellowship with the rest of the believers. That's granted. But the point is, the council decided they shouldn't keep the law.
They're not keeping the law. You just proved to me that they are keeping the law.
What
was they not? Go ahead.
Go ahead, you first.
No, I was saying right there. You just proved to me that they was keeping the law. Things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. All these are in the law. So how can he say don't keep the law, but yet keep the law? Why? Because the context is start with these things. When he's saying as touching Gentiles, which believe, we read and concluded that they observe no such thing. What's the thing they should not observe is a thing that's going on in verse 24. That's why I pulled the thing about
which is what?
Circumcision.
Which is what? What's the thing in verse 24?
The verse 24, I read it right here. It says, them take and purify them themselves with them. I'm going to read verse 23. Where you started at? Okay, verse 21. It says, Moses saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. So you know what he's talking about right there, right? Remember I talked about he had to make Timothy get circumcised, right?
Yeah, but hold on. It tells you in 24, like
I'm
you
getting
said.
there. I'm just starting at verse 21. I'm giving context.
Okay.
Right? Verse 22, and it says, what is it therefore the multitude must needs come together, for they will hear that thou art come. Do therefore this, that we see to thee. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. Them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, and they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. And what are those things?
That the things that they're being told about Paul.
Yeah, that's those things. It's not every single thing. So when you go down and says, but that thou also walkest orderly and keepest the law, right? Which law is he referencing?
Come on, bro.
It's right there.
It's referring to the law of Moses,
No, it's a
the
specific
Torah.
thing he's referencing. That's why I told you
Hold
in
on,
verse
bro.
21.
Start with verse. Okay, 20 tells you what the law is.
Okay.
You see, brother, how many myriads of Jews there are who have believed, and they are all zealous for the law.
Okay. What does that mean? Zealous of the law.
It means that they're motivated to keep the law that was commanded to them when God gave it to Moses.
Okay. And verse
So
21.
these Jewish believers, they're excited and motivated to keep that same law. And there's a false rumor going around that Paul's teaching them not to keep the law.
The verse 21 is gonna let you know what is it talking about.
Hey,
And this is
can I tell you this real quick?
I want to say this too.
Real
You
quick.
believe in, hold on 1 second. You're saying the exact same thing I'm saying when you give me the breakdown of what you told me in verse 25. You said, when I asked you that thing about child molestation, you said, well, this is just talking about some of the laws. So you agree with what I'm saying. You know this is not talking about all the law, because if it was talking about all the law, then your
Whoa.
point would yield on verse
Well,
25.
let me tell you